Whether you were at ClarinetFest or not, I'm going to be sharing in this video some of my personal biggest takeaways and the biggest lessons that I learned so that you can kind of live vicariously through me and continue to get some awesome benefits from an amazing festival. My name is Josh Gu, and I'm taking my years of experience learning, teaching, and performing, and sharing all of my best clarinet and music tips so you can get more out of your practice, and most importantly, have fun. You can learn more about all of my many resources at quickstartclarinet.com, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit the bell to get notified when I post new videos. If you saw last week's video, then you already know about some of the fun stuff that I personally was doing at ClarinetFest, including organizing and helping to organize the Prelude to ClarinetFest event, which was the first of its kind where we met a day before and kind of got acquainted with things. I performed a solo piece, and you can hear a recording of that in last week's video as well. And I had the Quick Start Clarinet booth in the vendor hall and the exhibit hall. I also should mention that if you want a little taste of what the Prelude event was like and some of the things that we were learning, I have the handouts for the couple of little sessions that I led on there in my free members area. So you can go to quickstartclarinet.com/get started, look for the Clarinet Fest 2025 handouts, and you can get those and check them out and learn those things even if you weren't there. But in this video, I wanted to talk about not the things that I was doing, but the things that I was absorbing and that I was learning from ClarinetFest. Of course, all of the community was wonderful, getting to hang out with people who I greatly look up to, and also the sort of enthusiast community who I also greatly look up to, and just getting to meet lots of people, and some people that I haven't met in person before, getting to meet them in person. It was so cool always to have that many clarinerds in one place and getting to hang out with everybody. So it was really magical for that, and I can't overestimate or over communicate to you how special the community aspect of ClarinetFest is. So that, of course, is always the biggest takeaway and the best part of it. But there were a couple other sort of standout highlights, two from performances and one from a master class. So the two performances that really stood out to me, and unfortunately I didn't make it to a lot of performances because I was at my booth a lot of the time, but during the evening performances I heard John Manassi play the Mozart Quintet and Richard Hawkins play Brahms' Second Sonata and the Poulenc Sonata, and both of those performances really struck me as being really special. And I also heard many other like dynamite, amazing performances, especially on those evening concerts, and the couple other concerts that I was able to make it to. But those two really stuck out in my mind as being just slightly on a different level, really, really special. And John Manassi and Richard Hawkins are both really well known as being really amazing players, so it makes sense that they stood out to me. But what was cool is I was able to kind of really tangibly feel what made them stand out. A lot of times you hear these amazing performances and you think, oh wow, that was really good, and I really, really liked that one performance, but it's hard to kind of put it into words. And if you can't put it into words or really kind of put your finger on what made it so special and so stand out, then it makes it really hard to recreate that for yourself. But I think I was able to kind of a little bit more tangibly feel what made those two performances in particular feel so special. And in the briefest summary of it possible, it was purely just attention to detail. You could really see both of these performers and feel both of them putting meaning behind every single note that they played, and having the control over the instrument to get exactly the sound and shape and dynamic and articulation and everything that they wanted out of pretty much every single note. And I think it's that higher level of intention that makes it so meaningful. A lot of the other performers that were, again, amazing performances that I really, really enjoyed, they were getting the notes and rhythms really accurate and sounded fantastic on the instrument, but didn't have quite the same level of intention. Listening to Richard Hawkins play some of the Brahms' Second Sonata, which is a piece that I and all clarinetists know really, really well, there were some phrases in there that I've always thought of as just kind of like, yeah, they're there, the piano's the important part, like you kind of just do your thing and they're just there. You just kind of play through those parts. But the way he played it made it so much more convincing and meaningful. And there were, again, were some phrases that I heard them and I was like, oh, I've never considered that kind of having that direction or that impact to it. And it was like every single phrase, and John Manassi, I think, was maybe even more so. I was really excited. I had heard him play live at a Colorado Clarinet Day before, and was one of my top live performances I've ever seen. So I was excited to see him live again, and again, absolutely blew me away. And again, one of the top live performances I've ever seen. And it's just that incredible attention to detail and control where every phrase, every note has meaning and purpose to it. And I think that's a good takeaway that's actually tangible that any of us can start to implement. As you're learning a piece of music, consider what's the intention, what's the meaning, where is this music going, and what am I conveying to the listener through, again, every single note and every single phrase, which may seem like overkill, but those really, really top 1%, top 0.1% of performances, it's that level of attention to detail that makes it special. And that kind of ties into the other big takeaway, which was from a masterclass that Richard Hawkins did. And I also should add a huge shout out to Richard Hawkins, who it was supposed to be Anthony McGill doing the masterclass and performing, but unfortunately Anthony McGill had travel issues and wasn't able to make it. So Richard Hawkins stepped in at the last second to do the masterclass and play the Brahms Sonata and the Poulenc Sonata as well in the evening concert, which was incredible. It was literally just a couple hours of practice that day between him and the piano player to put that performance together, which was one of the highlight performances of the conference for me. So huge shout out to Richard Hawkins for doing that, and I'm super bummed that I didn't get to hear Anthony McGill's teaching and playing live, but I also am really glad that I got to hear the stuff that I learned from Richard Hawkins and hear his playing as well. So that was really special, even though different than expected. But in the master class, a student whose name I unfortunately can't remember, I think her first or last name was Haley, she was playing the Navarro Concerto No. 2, and absolutely beautiful playing, really, really amazing. And I was thinking, if I was doing the master class, basically I would say to her, like, I don't need to talk anything about clarinet playing, like, your clarinet playing is stellar tone, stellar technique, great articulation, like, the playing was very, 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 very good. And Richard Hawkins also complimented her playing and said she sounded amazing and really enjoyed her playing. And I would have gone the route of looking at a little bit more musical nuance and maybe some performance stuff to make it a little bit more exciting and engaging from the performing perspective. But what Richard Hawkins did was, like, amazing, really good stuff, and then started to talk to her about the starts of notes and the clarity to sound at the starts of notes and getting into the core of the sound immediately and doing kind of crescendo, diminuendo, long tones with her, and that good kind of clarinet fundamental work, which kind of blew my mind a little bit because I thought her clarinet fundamentals were amazing, and they were. They're like a 98 out of 100 on clarinet fundamentals. But the lesson and the takeaway is it's again that attention to detail, where he heard things in her sound that I didn't even hear, and I hear things pretty well, and once he brought him up, I was like, yeah, okay, I could kind of see it, but he honed in on that even finer level of refinement and precision and control, and it's again that attention to detail that I think really makes a difference and really kind of separates those, not the top 10% of players, maybe not even the top 1%, but that top, like, 0.5% of really, really high-level music making and refinement that feels really, really special when you hear it. So that was the huge takeaway for me, is that, number one, you can always go deeper with it, and that's the beauty of music, is there's an infinite skill ceiling. You can always get more picky and more refined and fine-tune things even more. So that was the first takeaway. And then the second takeaway is that even when you're at a very, very high level of playing, it's still the same fundamentals. There's no such thing as advanced skills. There's just advanced situations that require strong fundamentals. And it's the patience to do the simple things with more precision and more perfection that makes those difficult things really special and really meaningful. So those are the two big takeaways that I learned from that masterclass, and I saw it reflected in Richard Hawkins playing that evening and also John Manassi's playing from earlier in the week, where you can just hear and feel the attention to detail and the control of so much minutia that has just been painstakingly worked over for hours and hours and hours to put that meaning and convey that expression to the listener, which makes a really special performance. So as you're practicing, no matter what level you're at, even if you're not in anywhere close to the top 10% even of players, that attention to detail and getting really picky and going deeper into the fundamentals and having more patience to do the simple things perfectly, that's where you're going to continue to grow and explore and learn. This wasn't planned for this video, but this just popped in my head as I was bringing this last point up. I also noticed at ClarinetFest, talking with other students and things, that a lot of people don't realize how much teaching resources there are of mine that you can consume and get involved with. One of them that's very new is the Confident Clarinetist Club, which is all about this going deeper and having more patience to do the simple things more perfectly so that the difficult things can become easy. So if you're interested in learning about that and working with me directly in one-on-one ways and building your confidence so that you can kind of figure out what that attention to detail is and how to do those simple things more perfectly, go to quickstartclarinet.com/confidence to check that out. So that was my big takeaways from ClarinetFest. Again, whether or not you were there, hopefully this gave you some new ideas and some new food for thought, and get to keep getting benefits from ClarinetFest, even though it was a couple weeks ago now. But it was a really special time, as always, and I hope I get to meet one of you and all of you someday at a future ClarinetFest or other in-person event, because it's always so special to get to connect to that community and get those nuggets of that attention to detail and that kind of stuff that is going to stick with me for quite a few weeks and months now heading out of ClarinetFest. So thanks so much for watching this video, and I look forward to seeing you in another one. And last but not least, a huge heartfelt thank you to the Dennersons. This is like the Quick Start Clarinet family who supports the channel and helps to make everything that I do possible. If you would like to support the channel and get some awesome rewards in return, where we can work one-on-one over video and you can have my full support moving forward on your clarinet journey, then go to quickstartclarinet.com/supporter.